End of day market recap for I want to say Friday. It is not Friday. It is Thursday. I've been doing that all day today. I thought today was Friday, but it is month end today. So another month is in the books. Kind of ends with a interesting move that we saw for today, and some dramatic moves that I want to talk about, and how this week kind of has been unfolding, even though we have one more day to go. But a lot of earnings reports, a lot of events this week, and I think they're kind of living up to the hype. I knew it was going to be a very busy week in terms of this is the busiest week for earnings, and thrown in with some events this week, including Fed meeting. Don't forget, tomorrow we do get also a jobs report tomorrow too, to kind of finish things off. But this has been a data intensive week that we've been dealing with, and very difficult to trade at that. Risk disclaimer in front of you: everything that we're going through is for information purposes, not giving out any advice or recommendations. At least for me, it's difficult. I run a trading room during the day, and I try to give investors as much information as possible with all the different earnings releases. Sometimes I take about 25 to 30 minutes just going through and providing commentary in terms of all the earnings releases, both before the open and after the close. So these weeks get to be kind of exhausting to run a trading room, to provide all the context and charts throughout the day, and try to trade through this too. So let me come away with a couple things for the day. I mean, it was basically like, I think from yesterday to today was a bit of a roller coaster ride. We sold off at the end of the day yesterday. Powell was not particularly dovish. He was hawkish. That skidded markets in the afternoon. Then you have Meta and Microsoft, as well as a number of other companies that came out with very good earnings. eBay, Carvana, to name a few, and of course there was many others. And I continue to kind of build out our earnings watch list, which now has well over, I think, 50 names on it. But a lot of really good earnings reports. However, the market dynamics seem to have won out a bit. In terms of all week, we've been seeing there's been a couple themes that have been playing out. Number one, we've had a stronger dollar all week long, and I think this month, now that it concludes, is I think this one of the strongest months, if not the strongest month, for the dollar this year. And why is that important? Why do I dwell on that? Because normally, when the dollar moves up, it's a headwind for equities, very, very generally speaking, and it gets more dramatic the faster these things move, right? And the dollar, which I'll bring up the chart in just a minute, had a pretty dramatic move. It was up again today, 0.2 of a percentage point. But just looking, let's see if I can get the percentage for you really quick with the move in UUP for the week. Just looking at the dollar bull ETF. So if I bring in 725, and sorry, I'm doing this off the screen that you can see, but I think it's up about 2.6% for the week. So that's a big move. Today, up 0.2 of a percentage point. Yesterday, up 1%. Yes, Tuesday, up 0.25%. Monday was up 1.1%. And if you go back even further here, so that makes right now we've got a streak of six green days in a row for the dollar. So that's part of it. And I think that's also why you've seen the weakness in the small caps all week long, and the poor breadth, which has been, I think, I don't think this is a coincidence, but we've had 6 straight days of weak breadth, 6 strong days 6 straight days of a strong dollar. So I think that's part of the story. And I know this gets in the weeds a little bit. Everybody's concentrated on single stock moves, but if the dynamics are just not there, you're going to have a lot of situations. You're going to have more days like this where there's just profit taking. And I know that this word has come about not just by me, but a lot of other people out there. But we know that the seasonality gets tough at this point. It gets tough. We've been on a big run. So taking a step back, and understanding that we are due for a break, and I know everybody's been calling for that to some extent, and sometimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when everybody begins to call for something. So does that mean, before I get into any of the charts, Does that mean that, oh my God, like this is horrible for the market and long term? No, it doesn't. It just means like let this market come in a little bit, do what it is, even if let's say that the market does follow what traditionally that it does, is that August is a weak month. You got the whole rest of the year. If we break a little, if we take a break for a little bit, you're going to get some good buying opportunities, because I don't think the themes that you're seeing in aerospace, right, and all kinds of aerospace, the themes, maybe a little bit in quantum too, but the semiconductors, um, the power generation companies, right? These are things I think that are going to play out for the rest of the year, but not in the short term. And I think what you saw today is indicative of that. So so that's my quick take of that. I also wanted to just talk about one other phenomenon too, which I tweeted out earlier. And let me just stop the screen for a second, and I'm going to reshare and go over this. Right. And this is something that I've talked about for a while. And I bring this up like every couple of months. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Nope, I can't zoom in on this. But what that blue line is if you buy the close and sell the open over time, like that is a consistent trade. Now, of course, when the market pulls back and the market has a correction, that strategy doesn't work as well as it does. But over time, you could see that the slope of this line is much different. So buying the close and selling the open versus buying the open and sell the close. So why do I bring this up? Right? Because I know that there's a lot of day traders out there, and I know that there's a lot of folks who don't want to hold through the overnight session. And that's mainly because everybody has had a bad experience in the overnight session where something bad has happened. And that mentally scars you a little bit. But those are the outliers, because over time, if you look at from the history of 1993, this is a huge difference between trying to buy the open and sell the close. Now, I know day trading does a whole bunch of other things, but this is just very, very general. So day traders, don't get mad at me. But if you look at the performance of this week, it was pretty spot on. And here's what the numbers that I put together since last Friday. If you bought the close and sold the open from Friday, and just SPY, and I know I think it's more dramatic in Qs, but I didn't do this exercise for Qs. You would have returned 2.7%. But if you bought the open every day this week and then sold the close, you would be down 3.5%. Right? That's more dramatic than usual, but it's a relationship over time that's pretty consistent. So be careful of what you're doing and understand. And that's why personally I try to go where the money is, right? And that's swing trading. And I do own a portfolio where I don't trade it like that. I don't go after. It's more of I call it my long-term trend portfolio. I stay in names as long as they're trending. But that's why I manage like two different portfolios, because it is tough on a day-to-day basis to market time during the day, especially if you're not doing the phenomenon of buying the close and selling the open. All right. That's a pretty long intro. I promise I won't have this video that long. Let's go into the technicals, because I think as we go into the technicals, right, the technicals are a roadmap, right? They're telling us they either confirm or they disagree with what our ideas are. For me, the technicals are always a roadmap for, hey, I have ideas, and they're gonna support whether or not I'm right or wrong. So for now, let's just talk about what the SPY did today. That's the first break of the 5-day moving average. I guess yesterday actually did close just barely below that 5-day moving average. And then today we try to go higher, and we've got a bearish engulfing. Now, notice what we've got here. A couple things to watch to the downside, because today is, as I said in the beginning of the video, is the last trading day of the month. And typically I find the last trading day of the month very difficult. And I also find the last week of the month difficult as well. I just find the last trading day of the month extremely difficult. A lot of times, for whatever reason, I've never really understood this, but institutions decide to sell the last trading day of the month, and then they go right back and they buy. Now, again, they could be different institutions, but I'm talking about like first of the month flows. Now, I don't know if you're going to see the normal first of the month trading flows, which are usually supportive of equities because it is August, and maybe they will kind of um, reel in a little bit from buying a lot for the first trading day of the month. But what I would watch is, number one, when you break the 5-day moving average, as we've been above now for the whole for more than a month, price has been above this 5-day moving average. This is the first break of it, so that's a big like yellow slash red light. If you want a little bit, if that's too too narrow for you, then what I would watch, again, this is all short-term stuff, by the way, but if you're more of a swing trader, then maybe the 20-day moving average is something that you're watching. Notice the new value area for the month of August. We are going to start the month above value, and that level's right around is 629.70. That's the top of the value for the month, and if we break into that, that also would probably break the 20-day moving average, and then you have more of a trend change. I don't know why this microphone is so high here. Let's try that. Maybe no, that's too low. So sorry about that. The Qs, uh, again, also broke the 5-day moving average, and notice that they where this closes right around the top of the value area for the month. All right, so that, and I will give you one other thing too. IWM. This is the first time IWM has broken the 20-day moving average since all the way back in April, right? You could see that price has been above here. So this has changed. So, what is the so what of this? Well, it really depends on your time frame. If you're more of a short-term swing trader, um, then or medium-term swing trader, then you want to be cognizant of when the picture changes. And right now, the picture is changing a bit, right? There's definitely some changes for my time frame, which sometimes I range anywhere from my swing trades like a few days to sometimes a few weeks to sometimes longer, depending on if the trade really works. Like I've been in some names for more than that, right? I've been in Oracle, in and out of Oracle for since they've reported earnings. And I mentioned Oracle. I did take some profits today because it's extended. And I've done this a few times now since Oracle reported earnings all the way back in here. I've been in Oracle 2 or 3 times, and I've sold it a few times in here. Now I haven't timed it perfectly, getting back involved every single time, but I've made a lot of money in Oracle. It's been one of my biggest winners over the last month. I like when names do this particularly. They change personalities when they have earnings, and that's why I keeping my earnings list and continue to kind of build that out as we progress through our earnings season. But obviously, names change personalities, and here's the change in personality in Oracle. Every dip has been bought for Oracle. All right. So let me just review. I want to review what happened with Microsoft and with Meta today. Microsoft has been on a huge run since they reported earnings the last time around. They, believe it or not, over here, this is 30% gain in Microsoft. So what did I say leading into Microsoft? And I did not play it. I'm not one of these people on Twitter who had a huge position in Microsoft going into the earnings, because it feels like everybody did, but that's fine. Congratulations to you. That was too much risk for me because I thought Microsoft had to put in a stellar quarter for them to go up after a 30% move quarter over quarter. They did that. However, they probably went up a little bit too much. And all day today, there was selling right from the open, right? And it held its gap up all through the open, but clearly somebody said, let's get out of Microsoft, let's take our gains. And that's basically what I saw today in Microsoft. And we'll see where this settles in. I think it would be okay if it came all the way back into the top of the value area. Now, I don't know if it's going to get that. But again, there's many other names out there to trade. I don't have to figure out every one of these names. I actually like Meta a lot here, but that's a huge gap too. I think this has to at least maybe come back to the breakout point. That's me. If you're a long-term holder, then you probably don't need to overanalyze things as much. Looking at some of the after hours movers today, What else did I wanted to go over one of the trades that I traded today, which was not Rocket Labs. Rocket Labs was a trade that I put on yesterday. I did take another target in this name. Why am I taking, by the way, like a couple targets and names as soon as I put them on right now? Because we know that the market's overbought and probably in need of a pullback. So you make adjustments. And even if it's taking $1.50 targets in some of these names on the turn, that's just the market that I feel that we're in right now. HWM was a name that I talked about how I believe I said on Twitter I got long this name. Notice what happened with this name. It was down, I think, at 1.10%. And I do this from time to time. I've been waiting for a dip in this name, and I bought it, and I bought it around 180 this morning. Right? I took a look and said, okay, this thing had great numbers, great guidance. Somebody asked me on Twitter, they're like, why is the stock still going down? And I said, I don't have an answer. It's like the institutions have been supporting this stock all the way up. If just like in Microsoft, if they decide that they want to sell and take profits, they're that's going to drive the stock price, right? Even though the numbers were good, right? They may view that maybe that's heightened for them. So what I did was, unfortunately, like I went through my stop price, um, and I was giving it to 176. It broke 176. I think I sold at 175. I scooped it back up once we took out these VPOCs. Right. So again, the lesson that I want to say here is this happens to a lot of traders where you trade something and it doesn't work. You get stopped out and you're like, oh, I'm never trading that stock again. Right. That's not how you want to operate as a trader. Sometimes your first go of it just doesn't work. And you've got to be pretty objective and forget about that you just lost money on a trade, because I went back in it once we hit this downside VPOC, saw that it bounced from here, right? There's a lot of these, there's a few of these down here. Now, I thought maybe that this one was going to get taken out too, but it didn't. But look at the bounce off of this. And again, I'm more apt to do this with a name that had really impressive numbers. And they did. Like I couldn't find anything. I'm like, what am I missing? Right? When I'm in this trade, I'll show you. I'll give you the numbers here for HWM. Let me just bring them up. But again, price matters more than anything else. If someone's going to if there's a big seller in this thing, it doesn't matter. Right? So let me go back to sharing the screen. Window. There we go. All right. So you should be able to see this. This was the numbers today. EPS 356 to 364. Saw 336 to 344. Estimate 351. Bang. Beats that number. Cash flow. Boom. Beats that number. You go up and down these metrics because this is what I was doing. And I'm like, damn, these are really good numbers. Maybe the revenue sees revenue 2.0 billion, 2.04, the estimate. So that's kind of like right in line with the estimates, but adjusted EPS higher than expected. So really good stuff, right? The revenues that they see sees revenue. I guess this is for the year. I don't see what time frame, but I went up and down these numbers. I'm like, these are really good numbers. The name's selling off on this, right? Initially, it went up pre-market. So again, you don't know how far these things are going to go. Give it a second chance once. And I can't emphasize, even though this is a 5-minute bar, you have to wait until it stops going down first, right? And that's one of the, sorry, wrong screen up here. Try again. There we go. You have to wait until it stops going down first. That's a situation over and over and over, right? Even though logic tells you otherwise, you can't control where prices are going to go based on what an institution is going to do. I wanted to bring up another example, and this is one that I had tried and I gave up on. Right, this is Astera Labs. I want to say Arista Labs, but this is Astera Labs. I tried this once or twice in here and got stopped out here and just came up to the conclusion that there was a seller at 100. But once it broke, and like notice the last time it pulled back, like these moving averages kind of caught up with it, which I don't think is a coincidence, right? We see that from time to time. Once the stock puts in a little bit of a higher low, maybe it's ready then, right? And if you stay with it, it's important. Why am I emphasizing this? We've seen a lot of stuff a lot of names over the last couple months that these are the things where you need to make outsized gains, right? You need to have big winners. You can't just have little winners in this game. You need to be able to ride the trend in some of these names and just let it go a little bit. I've talked about Oracle. Robinhood has been a big name for me. I've gone into that name several times. If we look at Robinhood now, yeah, they had earnings. They didn't have the cleanest, best numbers out there versus what I just went over in, for example, in HWM. So it makes sense. This might consolidate a little bit. Again, it doesn't mean a lot of times I say when a name is going to have when they have a bad number, they become dead money for the next quarter. I don't think Robinhood is going to be dead money. I think that they're going to continue to innovate. Their numbers were just not as strong as what they said. They could also be added to the S&P 500. There's another rumor, and you have to joke around about this a little bit because it's been rumored like 5 different times with Robinhood, and they haven't made it into the S&P. Maybe this time after earnings, maybe they if I think Paramount is the name that they're thinking about kicking out of the S&P. So maybe this finally goes and maybe that's a move up. But if you're still long, like if you're long this name and I'm long in my trend account and I still have a small position, I reduced it yesterday into earnings because I thought that the bar was too high for them, but they haven't broken the 20-day moving average. Right. So that's important. And that's how I'll stay in this trade and may add to it as we go along. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we consolidate. Right. That's how you kind of set up your trades a little bit. All right. So that's enough for that's enough details for today. But I'll tell you what, this market has been extremely interesting and fun. And this is what why markets are always captivating and always interesting to me. I never get bored of this kind of stuff because it's so interesting on a day-to-day basis, especially with all these earnings reports. So many good names that I think I think that so far this is one of the largest earnings lists of strong names and gaps that I've seen in quite some time. So yes, we're overbought here. The market's tired. Let it do what it wants to do. Don't give back your gains if you've had some nice gains over the last couple of months. Chill out and let the market consolidate a little bit and wait for some good signals and some good trade setup.